Resilience is a word so often used here in the Bahamas. In fact, it is woven into the very fabric of who we are. Yet, there is a special kind of strength that defines the people of Abaco in Grand Bahama. 5 years ago today, these communities faced an unimaginable force, Hurricane Dorian, a name that still sends shivers down the spine. It tore through these communities, leaving in its wake devastation.
I stand on the grounds of the Abaco Beach Resort. A place like so many across the island has its story of survival. You see, some 5 years ago, this resort was decimated, but today it stands reopened and bustling with guests. But this isn't about reliving the trauma inflicted by Hurricane Dorian. It's about the journey since. We'll take you to Abaco and Grand Bahama not just to see the damage, but to assess the work that was done. We'll ask the hard questions like, are these islands truly progressing? Did they receive the support they need? Or is the progress we're seeing the determination and resilience of these communities? We'll speak to those who survived the storm, those who continue to pick up the pieces, and those who are fighting for a better future. The road to recovery is often a long one, riddled with adversity, but the spirit of these islands is unbreakable. This is Our Voices, Echoes of Dorian, 5 years of resilience. That story of resilience started some 5 years ago. Dorian, who was only predicted to be a Category 3 hurricane, rapidly intensified into the strongest storm ever recorded in Bahamian history. Combined with a natural phenomenon known as a king tide, the conditions created the most disastrous superstorm. For the first 3 days of September, Hurricane Dorian ravaged through Abaco and Grand Bahama, leaving behind billions of dollars in damage and a death toll, depending on who you ask, in the hundreds or even thousands, an account that considerably conflicts the official death toll of 74. And naturally, the storm also left communities that are even now still in the process of rebuilding their lives. The megastorm made landfall on September 1st on the island of Abaco, which sits a mere 147 kilometers away from the nation's capital. Hitting this 649 square miles island created a myriad of experiences, too many to collect. But we speak to a former member of Parliament for North Abaco, a community leader, a local government official, and a resident, as they take us through the last 5 years for the island of Abaco, starting from day one.
In central Abaco, I happen to be here along with some other people who are in this room with me. And Dorian, I believe, changed our lives in Abaco forever. Not only the emotional impact or the destructive nature of Dorian, but a lot of us, I believe, still hold on to some of those issues of trauma that were related there too. But who could forget the total devastation? Who could forget the panic, the hysteria? I always think it's a blessing that Dorian came ashore in daylight hours. I think around 1 in the afternoon, thereabouts. We started feeling things from around 10ish or so, but she came ashore in full around 1 and came roaring ashore. It sounded like a freight train, right? Whistling coming. And then suddenly a sonic kind of impact that left what it left in its wake, complete destruction. People, I think, died unnecessarily. People who didn't heed warnings that we tried to give them. Dorian came on what they call a king tide, which is a super high tide. And it came straight across, from my perspective, straight across the harbor, Marsh Harbor, where you had all of these containers, and just south of the harbor, you had these irregular communities, the mud and the pea, where people refused to move from. And everything in Dorian's wake, which had waves as high as 20 feet, 19, 20 feet, she picked up, or he picked up and brought completely ashore. devastating those communities. In the eye of the storm, when we had some respite, we were able to go outside. We could see people coming out of these communities like rain. I always describe it this way, trying to find safe shelter. A lot of the people that lived in these communities were probably irregular, and as irregular communities go, didn't want to be exposed to government or officials. We tried to explain to them that this is not about immigration, this is about saving your life. And we were able to, by the grace of God, to get quite a number of them into the government complex where we were headquartered, and I think we managed to save some lives.
I don't think it's anything that I'll ever forget, because when I walked and saw the devastation coming to this government complex, the bodies floating in the water. I probably passed 14 or 16 of them. And when I got down here to see all the people that were displaced, but walking the road and seeing the destruction that had happened, not just in my area, but walking towards, as I said, the government complex and the government clinic, it was chaos. I mean, we were not fully prepared for what we encountered.
When I had a chance to return a week or two later to look around and see what it was that we had, to see it on video doesn't describe what was here. The smell, the flies, and we just didn't know what it was. The debris, I mean, flies blanketed this area, and we were saying the smell has to be dead bodies. Oh, it's just not a good scene.
Survival would not be fathomable without the assistance of non-governmental organizations. NGOs in the country and around the world, their efforts to mobilize relief were immediate, from helicopters landing on debris-riddled runways to ships with water, non-perishables, medical supplies, and more, all occupying ports around the island.
Central World Food Kitchen came in, Rubicon, a lot of the NGOs, and then started pouring in to help us out. We had the Mennonites, or Christian Aid Ministries, that actually came in here and were offering free labor. So what local government did, or my township, we actually bought material from Nassau and had it shipped up by boat, and we were able to dry in houses. So we provided the material, the Gray Select, the plywood, nails, and all that, and we had the free labor until COVID hit. And that really hurt us because the rest of the Bahamas had to deal with COVID, but Abaco had Dorian and COVID to deal with. Thank God to people like Chad Sawyer from Maxwell's, Premier Importers, Ken Hutton, other business owners.
In the immediate aftermath, the assistance that we got, particularly from the United States Coast Guard, and the medevac that took place, because we had some seriously injured people, we had some seriously sick people that we had to get out, and it was a blessing to hear those choppers coming in and landing at the government clinic and collecting people. It touched me so, as a former officer in the Defense Force, a senior officer. I walked over to see what was going on and to just thank them. And I remember saying to this corpsman, thank you so much. It was so good to see that we were not forgotten.
I worked along with Samaritan's Purse because they were not dealing with individuals. They were dealing through various pastors. Samaritan's Purse, through me alone, was able to repair 40 roofs through the program that they filtered through me. 40 roofs. But overall, they repaired over 300 roofs. So this kind of stuff was so helpful in us bouncing back. The outside help was just tremendous. And so we are grateful.
But in the months and now years since those dark days, what has been done for the redevelopment of that island and its keys? What kind of government assistance has been extended?
You got to get power restored. It took us, I think, quite a while to do that, 9 months to a year to do that, at a cost of about $90 million with BPL. BPL did humans work. I kid you not. We had to get water restored. That cost about $15 million. And then we had to go about trying to repair homes. I think between Abaconians and Grand Bahamians, it cost us about $11 million to address those needs up until the point when we left office.
I give credit to the previous government for getting our infrastructure back up as quick as they did. I know it was a tedious task. There are some bugs still in our system, which I guess they will be until they get them ironed out, like power going to the keys. You know, you might have little faults here and there tripping that cause the power to go off. But besides that, we've been doing very well.
And so there's always more you feel that you could do. And I want to make this point. I want to emphasize this. Did we get everything right? No, we didn't. But did we get everything wrong? No. The bodies that were left in the containers, I think they were there for too long, trying to determine identification until we determined to take a stance and say, look, we're just going to take DNA samples. We're going to tag the samples to the coffins. And in the future, if we do be able to identify, families will know where their loved ones are. That was one of the things that went horribly wrong. That was one of the things that we can't go back and fix in any way, because you have a right to know where your loved one is and how your loved one is buried. That's one of the things that hurt.
And with thousands now displaced in the aftermath and nowhere to go, a decision had to be made on providing safe housing. At this point, enters the concept of domes, a temporary housing solution provided by the government. 250 were purchased at a cost of $6.4 million.
Now, here in the Spring City community is the former site of what was once known as Dome City. Now, you may recall that there was quite a bit of controversy surrounding the purchase of the domes, and then where would those domes sit, and eventually the demolition of those domes.
Well, I was a member of the DRA. I didn't support the idea of the domes to begin with. I was in the meeting when that was formulated. I wasn't a member when they made the decision. I was invited to the meeting, and in that meeting, I said, "This is a bad idea. No, if you're going to spend $5 million on domes, spend that $5 million and build some homes." Could you imagine if you had dispersed $5 million and say, "I'm going to build some homes"? You could have built 100 homes. Well, I'm exaggerating. I don't know what the numbers are, but certainly you could have built permanent homes that people could be in, 2-bedroom homes like Mr. Ingram did after Hurricane Floyd, like Mr. Christie did after Francis and Jane. They built homes. And most of the homes they built were able to withstand Dorian.
When the demolition stages was going on, they offered a stipend of about $4,000 or something like that, which everybody really had a complaint or concern about that, but they had no other choice but to accept it. It was either take it or leave it, and people had to take it because they wasn't sure if I don't take it, I might get nothing at all, but they give $4,000 for sure, because I was like one of the last ones left here. And when I left, they actually gave me the $4,000. And I'm honestly say the DRA also assisted me with, I'd say about $1,500 where I could have gone to Maxwell's and get 1 or 2 building materials. But yeah, this just basically what it been right here. You don't hardly see no one come around, even say anything else about what's transpiring or whatever. Apparently they were supposed to build homes here. I don't understand how they get over there. But it is what it is. We live in. My experience since moving out the dome has always been a motivation for me. Living in the domes wasn't the worst thing, and that was part of the message that we was trying to let people know, yeah, you might have, anywhere you go in this world or anywhere you go in any community, you will find your differences or whatever going on. Which in the Dome was its own community by itself, you know? So yeah, you would have people, boom, boom, boom. But at the end of the day, everybody respected one another and we lived like a community. Anybody who probably used to reside in the Dome, if you go and ask them, so what you think about the domes? Y'all miss the domes, whatever? They'll probably tell you, yeah, the environment could have been more conducive to human living because the government did play a big role in was supposedly keeping the environment clean, which that wasn't happening. They made it seem like it was a burden, boom, boom, boom. So that's part of the reason why they kind of let it go, because they wanted to bring it like it was a health issue and all those other stuff. But thank God for where we are today.
I think the domes, in hindsight, was something readily done. We had to find some place for people to live. But in hindsight, I think the money ought to have been spent better on homes that people could have, structures that they could have on their property as their own. But in the interim, which comes first, right? People need shelter right now. I think the devastation or the destruction of the domes was careless. I thought if people were still living in them, it meant to me that they were still of use to some people. And you know, people complained about them. Yeah, but you know, it was thought to be the best thing to do at the time. Hindsight is 20/20, man. When you could Monday morning quarterback and you sit and you say, oh, this should have happened, that should have happened. But in the moment, there was no playbook. There was no playbook written to say how you do these things. And so it was tragic in the way the domes were handled, I think.
My question is, those domes cost the Bahamian people all this money. Why did they not go in there and sterilize them with, you know, getting the mold out and then store them? What they did is they came in there and they bulldozed them. You know, and of course some people actually removed some of the domes before the government came in. I won't call who, but they are now been painted green and they're out in our forest.
When we come back to Our Voices echo of Dorian, what's left to do? What is the mental state of residents and what does the future look like? Stay with us. A drive around the island shows progress. In some areas, new buildings have been erected. Businesses have reopened, and several houses are now places families can once again call home. But in other areas, there still lay everyday relics, landmarks, and shortcomings that serve as reminders of the destruction and turmoil associated with the monster storm.
Looking back and seeing where we've come and where we are now, we're doing good. Can we be doing better? Yes. Are there improvements that can be made? Yes, there are. Will the government listen to the locals on the ground? I've yet to see that. Our drainage system is one of our biggest concerns. I don't think there's anything that we can do if we ever have another Dorian. I don't care unless you built another 30 feet high up. But we've noticed just even in a light rain, our streets get flooded. Central government actually needs to force NIB to redo all these offices because there is mold still in these offices.
This facility was the center, the hub for government activity. And every month we were having shut down because of mold. Get on it. Like, it shouldn't be that difficult. If you don't know, bring an expert in. We got some experts in the country on mold remediation. Bring them in and get it done once and for all. We had an issue at the airport with the generator and with the air conditioner at the airport. It takes over almost 2 years to get a generator fixed. These kinds of stuff does not need to happen. I don't care who the government is. This isn't red or yellow. Okay, this is people's needs. It is the face of the country. And when it comes to the face of the country, to the world, we could do better.
As far as some of the derelict properties that I see, they need to be removed. The local government need to be empowered to work with the community to go and remove these derelict structures. And if they don't, we could find teeth in the law. If these people are not prepared to move these derelict blights on our serene environment, then we should employ the law and have them removed. But those kind of things, and then derelict vehicles, also now I saw. I'm reminded of Dorian every time I drive down Central Abacon and see that little traffic light. Man, we only had one traffic light, right? From I was a young boy. But it wasn't that kind of traffic light. I mean, we think we ought to replace that traffic light, if only for my sanity. Because when I ride downtown and I look at that place, it's that traffic light. And so derelict buildings, a lot of docks still need to be addressed, particularly in Grand Turtle Key. The airport at Treasure Key still needs to be addressed, because these are very important aspects of our economy. We have second homeowners that live in Guana Key. You know it as Baker's Bay, and they fly into Treasure Key Airport on expensive jets, right? And there's no facility, no proper facility for these people to come. I think someone is doing an FPO or something down there, and that's good. That's going to help, but we need more boots on the ground by the government.
While the brick and mortar redevelopments is crucial for the return to normalcy in daily life, it's important not to forget that these tragic events occurred to actual people who are still healing from loss in various aspects.
As I move about, I myself was traumatized by Dorian. I didn't realize it, because if you recall, at some points we didn't sleep for like 3 days, right? And so post-traumatic stress is a real issue, I believe. But as I move about now, I find people more palatable. They're less angry. They're more open and amenable. I think addressing trauma in a place like the Bahamas, there's still some stigma, right, attached to it. Like, oh, what's going on with you? You got to go for counseling and all like that. But it's a natural occurrence after such a traumatic event, that you have some counseling, you talk to someone. What I found therapeutic for me, I don't know about you, Megan, but what was therapeutic for me was talking to people about what happened to us after the event. And the more I talked about it, the better I felt about it.
And at the very mention of a storm, they get very, very edgy, and some are very frightened at the very mention of a storm. Just with this tropical storm that went by just the other day with Debbie, I was getting calls every day. What do you think? What should I do? And people panic. They're frantic about storm, and you just got to talk them down. Calm down. We're gonna be all right. But I don't think mentally some people will recover from this.
And while so much progress has been made within the first 5 years, one must also admit that there is still much more needed to return Abaco to its once thriving status. As the island's pristine tropical oasis continues to draw the attention of the world, we ask Abaconians what their desires are for the years to come.
I hope that Abaco would come to the place where we leave more money home from the central government to address our immediate concerns. I hope that we could establish a proper BTVI in Abaco, because after the storm we recognized that we didn't have sufficient technical people to do the work to help us rebuild. I hope that Abaconians would appreciate the beauty of this island and respect what we try to do here, and really take care of us, take care of ourselves, take care of your neighbors, man. Go back to being your neighbor's friend, where you could borrow something from across the fence. I hope that we can get our infrastructure in gear. When you fly into the airport, you look at the derelict infrastructure around the airport. Come on, man. Come on, it bothers me, right? I know it's tough in government to get a lot of things done. I hope that we can get a dock in Grand Turtle Key. People work hard. People work hard. All they want the central government to do is do its part. And if we could do our part as a central government, I believe we'll all be okay in Abaco. I hope that we could see our schools in a place where we'll all feel free to send our children and not have to use monies to send them to private schools. I hope that we could see a housing boom in Abaco of construction, where people who have their own monies that they could afford to build right now would be really easily given a piece of land and say, go build, right? And those who can't, then we can use another type of development to help them come and just pay for the infrastructure and then go and begin to build. These are some of the things I see for Abaco, man.
A little more involvement with central and local government working together rather than central government making all the decisions for Abaco in general. I don't think you should have people in Nassau making decisions for people in Abaco when they don't live here. But in regards, we've come leaps and bounds. We are the business district, as you can see. We have little motels through the town. Maxwell's has come back up. They've actually opened up a home center. They actually have a lumber yard. So people did benefit from Dorian, and people had the opportunity to do more. So it is good to see where we are now.
What I know would progress most of all is unity, because after Dorian, that's what everybody did. We clinged on to one another, and it was unified and everything like that. Everybody was pretty much working with one another, and that's what kind of helped the progress of the community. Some people is like, they wouldn't see certain things, but if you help me and I help you, we could get there. Instead of this one trying to tear this one down or the next one trying to tear this one down. And you had people in positions who did that because they got access to these things, but because you ain't who you is, you don't get access to it, so you end up suffering. But if we all could just work together, try to build up, lift up one another, I think Abaco will pretty much be on the track, better than what it was before, because everyone who is building right now they always got that sense in their head of Dorian. So if we think about Dorian, if we build our community strong, and if we can have a strong relationship with one another, I think we'll be on the right path.
After this break, we navigate the storm's slow trek through Grand Bahama. Stay tuned. You're watching Our Voices, Echoes of Dorian. On September 2nd, the island of Grand Bahama dealt with the wrath of Hurricane Dorian. The storm made a slow crawl, unleashing a nightmare unlike any other. And that speaks volume for an island that has been beaten time and time again. We turn our attention now to the nation's second city, where a number of key players walk us through the island's redevelopment journey. The sitting cabinet minister, the chamber president, a local government leader, and residents from the areas hardest hit.
The events as they were beginning to unfold were just unbelievable, and to watch this play out proved to be very harrowing, and we thought, but when is this going to end? And it went overnight. The following day, getting out and starting to look around, it was totally unbelievable, the extent of the devastation. And the more concerning was the impact on people's lives, and I suppose that became the key concern. The reports quickly came in of missing persons, and unfortunately proved later to be loss of life. And the extent of devastation was hard to imagine how persons, families would have survived at all.
Just going back brings back, those memories, but unbelievable, because Hurricane Dorian sat over this island for how many days? 2 or 3 days, just sat. And so, first of all, we wanted to make sure that our family members were okay. We just didn't know, and even with Abaco as well, because we had family members in Abaco also. And so I think it was more about safety, more about, making sure everyone is okay. But once it started to unravel on what we lost, it became another nightmare, I would say.
Hurricane Dorian was the worst nightmare I have ever seen in my life. I happened to, I've been through it here. I live at my house here in High Rock. I didn't go. They asked to evacuate and I didn't do it. I stayed in my house. The roof blow off, the window blow, come on the bar, and the water was in the house, and blah, blah, blah. And me and my wife, I am Dorian Roberts, we had to fly down the U.S. helicopter to come by us, the toy day, and they take us in from here, Abaco and McLeanstown, and then take us into Nassau. When I came from Nassau, I couldn't even come back home because the road was destroyed. You couldn't drive up here. I happened to live in Freeport with a good friend of mine, Donald Archer. He gave me a house to live in until I could have come home and give me a car. And when I come here, it was devastating. My bar gone, my hotel gone, my restaurant gone, everything. I lose everything I had.
I was thinking we probably die. I was thinking because even when my husband took me and he put us in the bus, I felt like the water was going to come up in the bus and probably suffocate us and drown. I didn't want to die like that. And then especially my daughter. I say, you know, she was only 14 years old at the time. And seeing that I couldn't help her, I felt helpless as a parent. And I was like, you know what I mean, I can't even tell my daughter I can't help her because I'm scared too. And then we just began to cry uncontrollably. And like I said, I could talk about it now and don't cry, but as the years go, I began to heal from that situation.
Naturally, aid was on standby, mirroring the experience in the Abacos. NGOs were on the way to assist. For weeks, months, and in some cases years, these non-governmental organizations have been filling the gap for thousands of families since the all clear was given.
In the midst of trying to, you know, recover ourselves, we had to try to get out there and help those who are in need. And so I would say that if it weren't for the NGOs, I'm not sure where we would be today.
We have like NGOs that pass through and they help us out a lot. And we have like organizations like Rotary, and then we have the TRA and the government and, you know, all of them. Everybody chip in, so, you know, you get a little help from Rotary, you get a little help from this and so that's like put us on our feet.
Thank God for those persons, NGOs who would have assisted the residents here on the island. The Rotary Club, CORE, several others that would have assisted with finances to help persons rebuild their homes and so forth. And so we are grateful to those NGOs. We are more than happy that they were able to come in and to help the residents rebuild and get back to some sense of normalcy. We're grateful, truly grateful. Rotary, I think, would have built 17 homes. Yes, and like I mentioned earlier, assisted with installing roofs, shutters, and some interior like tiling, etc. to some of the persons who would have been doing what they could do on their own as well.
When it comes to the relief provided by the government, it seems as though residents were still a little less satisfied, particularly when it comes to the development of the eastern end of the island.
The government ain't doing nothing to help this area where the hurricane happened, what they should have done. From the bridge come up, it's nothing happened for us. There's so many people here right now want to come back home. They don't have no money, the old people. The young people, they ain't have nothing. The old people, they can't build, they can't go to the bank, they can't do nothing. I can't go to the bank, I'm 84 years of age.
So, you know, what it is. They need to put more emphasis in the community and what they're doing. And I hope to God they hear what I'm saying and try to do something for this, for the east end of Grand Bahama.
I would say we had help. Maybe, like I say, maybe not as much as we want. We were expecting, but we had some assistance. But we could use more because of certain conditions. Like I say, so many people are out of jobs. There's no businesses that has enough to employ persons because there's not enough business. And then there's not enough people to come home to work to the business. And if, like, you know, maybe let's say like the DRA and so forth, they've been doing pretty good. But then, you know, if you could step up a little more and, you know, have that done. Rotary did excellent. They did very well. We really, really appreciate them doing what they've done.
And for the quaint communities beyond the borders of the city of Freeport, they're more accustomed to a slower pace of life, where the simple pleasures of the ocean, the comfort of a worship service on a Sunday in a functioning sanctuary, or the laughter of children in their communities sit high on their priority lists. We asked about redevelopment efforts in the East to date.
They ain't doing nothing. God bless the Rotary Club, and them and the Kiwanis and them who help the people. But I think I had it bad. But can't you imagine the people in Swinsky right now today, the people gotta leave there from 6 o'clock in the morning. They gotta go to Freeport to school, the kids. The couple of people who live in there now. And they still had to do that after 5 years. That's terrible. That's terrible. You know, I think that's very poor. You know, higher up, no school. We had about 800 people here now. We got, and higher up, let's say, we got about, the most of them have about 70 people living in higher up.
We lost our dock and still waiting to have that reinstated. The school, total, still waiting to have the school reinstated. Our local government building, the same situation, still waiting to have those things, you know, reinstated for the benefit of the community. The water system was total, and at present we are in a temporary state with the water system. But the young families in particular, they're residing in the Freeport area simply because there's no amenities with the school on the key. And so that's one of the reasons we were actually agitating to have the school back up and running, even if it's just a primary school for the smaller kids. You know, and we don't want them really have to take that boat ride over every day to McLeanstown, a bus ride into Freeport. You know, so I would have thought and hoped that we would have seen basically everybody with home rebuilt and, you know, moving back into the communities where they used to live.
We have farming in this area. We have fishery in this area. Right now, we're fishing on the north side, and the farming is on the north side. The road is totally in disarray. And fishing is one of our main incomes too in East Grand Bahama. Even like the bonefish camp. I don't see why that we can go into an adventure with the fishery and agriculture to fix our northern road access to the north side of the island.
In recent times, very recent times, the Deputy Prime Minister has said Grand Bahama will get its airport. Okay, we're expecting it, we're looking forward to it, and he's also indicated that you know, it should equip us to get pre-clearance facilities again. He didn't say we will get pre-clearance facilities, but you know, when is it all going to happen?
When we return, while there's lots of talk about investment and stirring the economy, we delve into what these Grand Bahamians have seen in the last few years. Mentally, how have they been coping, and what do they hope for in the near future? For the last 20 years, Grand Bahama's economy has diminished since the years of the Magic City. The impact of hurricanes, though not uncommon for the island, has been a main contributing factor to the struggling economy. We took some time to explore the bounce back of business since Dorian.
They've been bad. It's a blessing in the sky for the people I met. That's why it's good to be good to people, because it pay up for you. The people who I knew from all over the world, they come back and visit me, and they so come, and they who keep my business open.
All I can see is, well, the growth within this community, it just needs to open up the door for the young people to embrace something, some value. Most important, a job, not a part-time job, but a steady job that they can earn, that they can go and have credit and make an income or a bank loan or something. You can't go to a bank with a part-time job.
The Grand Bahama economy is still in many ways depressed. And while that might truly be the case, it is not impacting the spirit of Grand Bahama to see it better. And I move around a fair bit, stop and talk to a lot of people and visit a lot of small businesses. And you know, they have slow days. They'd like to see more activity, but it can happen. We just, you know, what comes first, the chicken or the eggs? We need the population. We need businesses to happen, and maybe they need to happen all together. A good thing that has happened out of the hurricane, which, you know, from sitting where I sit in the chamber, is we have spawned a lot of entrepreneurs out of necessity. There have been a tremendous number of persons who've started their own business, albeit small businesses. It's going to be sustaining. The resilience and confidence of people here has been so refreshing to witness, to see them rise to the occasion and make ends meet, and also continue to plan and with all determination to remain a part of the Grand Bahama landscape.
Then there's Celebration Key, the Carnival Cruise Line project, expected to inject hundreds of millions of dollars into the local economy. The project, which opens in 2025, anticipates welcoming 2.2 million cruisers and creating more than 700 permanent jobs. However, some residents seem a bit indifferent to the project, most waiting to see what happens as things roll out.
You know, compliments to Carnival. They're building an exquisite port for their guests, which in itself attracts them to stay within the port. But we're hoping some of them will venture out.
I have no thoughts on it. I don't know about enough about it to think about it. I from Missouri, show me. When you do it and I see what you're doing, then I could talk about it and tell that I has no comment on that.
It is a good project, but I don't see the incentive for us here in this community as a president, because right now we don't have a written guarantee of what will occur, what will happen for East Grand Bahama for the settlement, or the incentive that we will get from whatever they have to offer.
And no matter who you ask, there's no doubt that everyone is dealing with the events of Dorian in some form or another. Though seemingly taboo in our nation, we have to consider the mental health of Grand Bahamians. Just hearing the stories would take a toll on anyone. For some residents, talking about it has helped, and others turn to more conventional means.
Anybody that's like going through a mental situation, like, I'm very sensitive to it because you don't know what the person is going through, and they're so close to doing anything, you know what I mean? So like, I don't like people like probably call people names and stuff and say they're crazy and stuff like that because you don't know what they're going through. And I went to a lot of doctors, and I was going through like a stomach situation. I think my anxiety started with the stomach situation that I didn't know that it was a result of the stress. I was on medication for a couple months, but I was stronger than what I was going through. So I pulled myself off it. I took myself off. I didn't wait for them to wean me. I had two visits to the psychologist, and I didn't make no more appointment. I weaned myself off. I had to take sleeping meds for me to fall asleep, and then I find out that I started to fall asleep by myself, so I stopped taking the pill. So after I found out I fall asleep without the pill, I stopped taking it. So I weaned myself off that. 3 years, November coming, I was completely off that. I sleep like a baby. In fact, I think I sleep too much. Yeah, and but I fight through it myself. And I tell anybody that's going through that, you could make it.
And then there's that word resilient again, a word that over the 20 years could have a negative subcurrent for some Grand Bahamians. We put the question to the chief counselor of Sweetings Key: are Grand Bahamians just tired of being resilient?
I would say so, yes, in some respects, you know, because we human nature kicks in, of course, and so the bottom line is, you know, if someone comes and they promise you X, Y, Z, you're hoping that in the shortest possible time that you're going to get that, whatever it is. It could be the least, it could be the most, you know, and so, yeah, I guess your patience may get a little wearied in that regard.
Though a bit unsure of exactly what the future holds, officials tout of the projected $2 billion of investment in Grand Bahama. While most Grand Bahamians have a wait-and-see mindset through it all, most are still hopeful.
And for Grand Bahama to be the center for sustainability, and why not Grand Bahama when we are resilient. We've been through hurricane after hurricane, and I think we know a thing or two about recovery. And so we are focusing on Grand Bahama as the Center for Sustainability, where climate change, resiliency, adaptation, mitigation, and sustainable master plan development will be the focus of it.
And we're hoping that the economy kind of picks up. It hasn't been the best, but we're hoping it picks up.
I would like to see the government build some homes for these elderly people, especially who are living in Freeport, and they're suffering because to live in Freeport, it costs you money. And I would like for them to put some homes, build some homes. If only some apartments, and give people rooms for the old people to come back home to their playground.
We need to see more home developing, more home finish off and put in place, start with. We get a lot of homes started, but it's not completed. And in some way we long that if they can help those individuals who need help to make their house livable, to maintain and grow their family, I believe we'll be working in the right direction. But as now,
more work to be done.
Need work to be done. And I appreciate whatever they've done, but it needs to be done more.
We are back on our feet. Like I say, it's turning around and coming together, rather, moderately. But there are still persons that's still in Freeport who would love to come back home. So if, we could get some more assistance, we appreciate the help that we've gotten so far. If we could get a little more assistance, be able to bring a few more families home. And then bring more families home would bring more of community to the place, because we hadn't had anyone return home, like I would say within the last year. We hadn't had a new family come home, and I have like sisters and other relatives that's still in Freeport paying rent at this time, and it's really, really hard. Once we have persons that come back home, they probably have other business ideas, so when they come and they open up more business, so we have more going on. But so far, so good. It's been pretty good.
What we need now is a definitive plan that will complete the restoration of Freeport and Grand Bahama and take us to the next level. The Freeport model, which is the Hawksbill Creek Agreement, is not broken in my view. I certainly don't think it's being maximized, and it has a life still of about 30 years. There are issues between the Port Authority and the government right now, and notwithstanding those, I still believe that Grand Bahama can really, really grow. I listen to, and of course this is still all post-Dorian, I listen to what the government says, I listen to what the Port Authority says. They have one thing in common, as they express, their desire to see the betterment of the residents, the people of Grand Bahama. They both say the same thing, and that for me says it all. And my cry is, okay guys, show us by working together. Late 60s, early 70s, Grand Bahama was in a certain place. I truly believe that Grand Bahama is destined to be that again, with the right combination of things. And Grand Bahama, in my view, should be promoted as a place to work and a place for family. A great combination. We have the infrastructure, we have the open spaces, there's an absence of crowding, and I certainly can't see that happening for an exceedingly long time, overcrowding. I believe it's possible. In 5 years, I really believe that this island can be known as the place to be, the place to go, where Bahamians, particularly out of Nassau, will look at Grand Bahama as that second home place.
These and countless other stories within this program ring just about the same. They are grateful for the help that has come. However, there is more work to be done. Local government needs to be further empowered by the central government, and people want to go home and rebuild their lives, and they want a say in what the rebuild and future of their communities look like. Experts say it takes anywhere from 5 to 12 years for a community to recover from natural disasters of this magnitude fully. We sit at the beginning of this timeline, learning from the past, working towards more, and hoping it makes way for these communities to be rebuilt, stronger, and reinforced by its own people. So, what do the next 5 years look like to you?